Beg your pardon?
It comes with a huge stipend, Michael.
Oh,
So what that'll involve is we'll be taking minutes. Amanda Real, our selectman's assistant going forward, will be taking minutes. So I'm recording today's meeting and she'll transcribe into the minutes. Any decisions we make should be made as a motion and voted on, simple things like that. The Board of Selectmen will put on the agenda for Thursday. Currently on the list of commissioners, we have myself, Wayne Heilman, Mike Jackson, Nick Solly, Fran Kilty, Valerie Sedelnik, Lisa Stein, Phil Markert, Jeff Miller, Dan Shear, Tony Bedini, and Howard Rosenfeld. I've reached out, I haven't seen much of Nick, so I've reached out to Janet Hill to ask if anyone on zoning as a representative would be interested in serving, if Nick's not going to be able to make it. Does anybody have any thoughts on the makeup of the commission?
Yeah, I'm not on the commission, but we've been acting as coordinators or whatever you want to call us. Dan and I decided not to do that, so we didn't have to call meetings every time we talk to somebody.
Okay, so you guys.
Well, Jim, I would at least for the immediate future, much like to remain involved. So as a member of the commission, if you now want to call it that, that would be very comfortable for me.
You'd be okay being appointed, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. Tony, you don't want to be appointed?
I mean, it's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Don't go away, Tony. We need you.
So talking a little bit about, first talk a little bit about the town reopening, the state reopening.
Jim, may I make a motion?
Sure.
The motion is to allow Jay Hubblebank to move to the start of the list, in large measure because he needs to leave in a short order. So,
Oh, sure. Let's turn it over to Jay. Jay, I set up the screen. You can go ahead and share.
Great. This is on the Wi-Fi in the depot, just to give everybody an update and where we stand. I've been hoping this would be done a while back, but in the last 6 months, we've had a few setbacks between coronavirus, the town hall getting a repaint job up at the top there, and a few other things. But we are right now, we have all the equipment set up. We have the connections between the school over at the primary school and the town hall. We have equipment out in a number of businesses around town. We'll be deploying some more equipment tomorrow. So far, the signal strength we're getting all the way over to the pantry is really excellent. And you know, we're working with Ed Advance. They're able to come out once a week and work on this part of the project, given the other work that they have with schools, trying to help them with their long distance learning at this point, or homeschooling, whatever you want to call it. So they'll be out again tomorrow to deploy some more equipment. And one of the things I wanted to show, and Jim gave me the ability to share the screen, is the poster, I guess, that we have put together. I worked with Dan and some others to put together a little poster that we can pass out to all businesses in the area to give them so that they can display that and give it access so people know how to connect. And the idea here is, again, for people to be able to walk around town, connect to one Wi-Fi signal, and be able to walk around town between the various places in the depot and not have to reconnect to a different business or a different Wi-Fi. They'll be able to connect just to this Wi-Fi and walk around town. And the other thing I just want to point out, because I think there was a little confusion, the idea of this was not to give businesses access for themselves in their own use in their own business, but more for, excuse me, for the public to use when they walk around town, and so that businesses don't have to provide a guest Wi-Fi at their site. So that was the idea. So let me just show you the poster that, or not, I'm talking about like a 5x7 laminated card that we're talking about. I'll just put this on the screen. And you can see we're using the Washington logo, talking about free Wi-Fi. And when you go to your Wi-Fi signal, you'll see this Wi-Fi free Wi-Fi, Washington free Wi-Fi come up, and you can connect. We will ask you to sign off that you agree with our terms and conditions, which pretty much says you're not going to go to porn sites and use it for other nefarious purposes. And that once you connect, you'll be connected again to be able to, and the signal's strong enough that you should be able to walk around the depot without having to reconnect. We're going to set it up that people will have to accept terms and conditions about every 7 days, just to ensure, if you've already, once you connect, you'll still have to agree with our terms and conditions, say about every 7 days, just to be sure that people are understanding that this is a town Wi-Fi. And also in the last part there, once you connect and agree to our terms and conditions, you'll go to explorewashingtonct.com as your starting point once you connect to the Wi-Fi.
Jay, I don't think we can see the poster.
Oh, you couldn't see it? Just, you can't see it now?
You have to, did you do the share screen thing?
I thought I did, but I'm sorry. Here we go. Let's see. There we go. I'm sorry about that. Share. I thought if I just clicked on it, can you see it now?
Yeah.
There it is. Thank you.
Okay. So the idea here, as you see, we're using the Washington logo, and you'll connect. When you go to your Wi-Fi in your settings, you'll see Washington free Wi-Fi and be able to connect. And as I said, it'll take you to explorewashingtonct.com. So that will be the starting point for anybody connecting, which I think is a great place to go. It gives everybody all the information they need about what's going on in Washington. And obviously this is the depot to start with, but so I'm looking for, if anybody has any thoughts about this, the sign, please let me know. I haven't gotten to print yet on it. I want to, want to get anybody's input, and that's the bottom of it. So that's the whole sign. So if you do have a suggestion or think there's something that doesn't sound right, let me know. I'm hoping that tomorrow we'll be deploying some additional equipment, and then within the next couple of weeks, what we plan to do is then give out a test site for those of us on the committee and other people in town to test out for a week or two before we actually go live. So that should happen hopefully in the next month or so. That's where we stand right now. So how do I get out of that then? Stop sharing, right? All right. So if there's any questions about it.
And Jay, do I understand that these would be posted in the windows as you enter?
Right. And wherever, I mean, that to me would be the most sense, but wherever a business feels comfortable putting it in their window, but yeah, right in the front when they first come into a business. We'll obviously have some in town hall. Yes, so that's the idea.
Okay.
I was just saying, we had discussed briefly possibly having a welcome to Washington sign made for the depot somewhere outside so that you see it, maybe on the wall where the post no signs sign is, or somewhere where it could be on there as well. So
that'd be great.
Figure that out, but just, so it's not just in the business windows, but some sort of welcome sign.
That'd be great. Maybe, when we first get started, we can put the signboard out, Jim, and have that on there as well, just as a,
Sure.
where we usually put that. So
How did you come to the 7-day cycle?
well, we were talking about it, at some places, if you go with a free Wi-Fi, you have to do it every time you log on. I don't want to do that. Others have you just do it once. I think Ed Advance's recommendation was that we at least have people do it once, every 7 days. I don't want somebody who, just because it's important that they understand that this is a free Wi-Fi network provided by the town, and we have certain requirements if you're going to use it, that you need to understand that those are the conditions. So I didn't want it to be too burdensome that if you're in town and you get out of Wi-Fi, you have to, and you're walking around, that you had to reconnect and agree again every time. So we're trying to find a happy medium, I guess, Dan, between too much oversight and not any at all.
Okay.
So there'll be basically what there'll be, Dan, is there'll be a little box on the screen that you have to just click on that says you agree to the terms and conditions, and it'll take you then right to the website.
Okay.
All right.
Jay,
Yeah.
Jay, is there any, I heard a rumor, something about pine tree in the way somewhere? Is that
Uh,
true?
There was some branches in the way over at the superintendent's office. Town crew is taking care of that already, so we're all set there. That's not a problem anymore.
Great, great.
And we had a little problem with the scaffolding around around the tower when they were doing the work there. Obviously, that's all done. By the way, it looks great, Tony. I
Yes,
think
it
the
does.
town hall looks fantastic.
Yes.
So that's taken care of as well already. So we're good there.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks
Thanks, Jay.
thanks, Dan,
I
for
have
moving
I
me
have
up.
a question, actually.
Yeah.
First of all, this all sounds great, Jay, but when was it decided that we weren't going to be offering business service? Because the original proposal
Right.
had a two-tiered structure where we would provide free step-down Wi-Fi for visitors, which we're doing, and we would provide full-scale gigabit service to businesses. That was an integral part of the proposal. I know that because I wrote it.
Well,
And I'm wondering when that went away.
Well, I think, Wayne, I know when it went away. Wayne, over the discussions when we had the issue with, I had hoped to be able to run a line, fiber over to the town hall from the school district. And with the issues with the court and the utilities, we weren't able to do that. So the issue, what we talked about here at the committee was to start at the level now with just allowing it for, individuals walking around town. Once we got that set up, and depending on what happens in the courts and whether we can actually run the fiber over to town hall to get a better signal and more bandwidth, that then we would look to the second level, Wayne, of doing it, of trying to see if we could allow businesses. We know we can't charge businesses, which is one of the things we had talked about, but I'm hoping that as we go down the road, we can open it up to businesses, for free, basically. But at this point, I wanted to get this up and running, and so this was the first step in the process.
I totally understand, and I agree with your path. I mean, I'm just saying that in order to maximize the economic benefit here, we are the Economic Development Commission.
Yep, I agree.
Providing gigabit service is going to be crucial. I don't want this to go away, and I'm going to stomp up and down
That's quite all
until.
right.
Okay, and I don't
I
care if
appreciate that.
and you can accuse me of being a squeaky wheel or whatnot,
That's
but
not,
this is not an option. Okay, and I'm putting everyone on alert right now that I'm going to jump ugly until we get it.
that's fine with me, Wayne, and I'll look forward to you to help me get that set up too.
Um,
I'm easy
Jay,
to find.
I know.
just out of curiosity, what is the issue with running what's in the courts hanging up the fiber from the school to the town hall?
Now there's
wait.
nothing because we won the case, but we still would have to apply.
Right.
The issue before was that Pura said that we didn't have the right to do it. Northwest Connect, we sued the state and we won. So the short answer is that we have free access to the polls as a municipality, but that doesn't mean we get the access to the pole for free. But that doesn't mean we get it all installed and everything for free. And
Right.
it's, even though it looks to be a very short distance of, say, maybe a quarter of a mile or so, it's still pretty expensive.
Yeah, we had an estimated cost of about $30,000 to $40,000, but I think, Wayne, and you explained this in one of your other presentations once, other part of the issue, Michelle, is not only getting it run, but everybody else has their stuff on the poles, and getting permission to be able to move other lines rather than having to wait for Verizon or whoever to move their lines to put, because I guess Wayne, as Wayne explained, and Wayne, feel free to make it, if I don't get this right, but all the lines weren't strung exactly the way, you would think in the order they should be. And for us to put our line on there, some of those lines are going to have to be moved. And whether we can do that ourselves, or whether our company can do it, or whether we have to wait for Verizon or Frontier to move their lines to make space for us, is part of the issue too. That is going to be a costly one. And Wayne, I don't think that's been resolved, is it?
No, it hasn't. And that's a pretty good explanation, actually,
Oh,
Jay.
thanks.
It's like, basically, the way it works in Connecticut right now is if we need those existing lines on the poles moved so that we can place our line on the pole, we have to contact all of the other line owners and say, come out here and move your stuff, it's in the wrong place.
Right.
And of course, they will slow walk that process to the maximum extent. And although it won't cost us any more money, he could, I mean, right now, Frontier, when you make a request to Frontier to move one of their lines, the wait time is 14 months.
Right.
Good.
And
Wow.
that's,
Plus they're in bankruptcy. That's if you can even get anyone to answer the phone, because they're currently under bankruptcy protection. So there's
And-
literally nobody home. It's kind of ironic you call the phone company and nobody answers, but that's another issue.
and that's one of the reasons, Michelle, we went ahead with doing it via the antennas, because we didn't see that they were, this has taken us longer than it should have, but we didn't see that there was a light at the end of the tunnel if we're going to have to wait for Frontier to move lines. So we wanted to get this up and running.
I think it's great. And I think it is actually a service to the businesses. My understanding with Wi-Fi, which is little and has been more recent, but now they can secure their personal Wi-Fi and
Right.
not have the public.
Right.
So it's safer.
Yeah.
All of their networks now, where their printers and any of their business work
Right.
can be secured. They can even kick their employees, so that their phones and everything aren't
Right.
bogging down their own personal business system, and kick everyone else off to the town Wi-Fi, and that should help their own
Right.
internal working and increase their security.
The other issue, and I'll just make it quick, is one of how much bandwidth we get. Right now, we're sharing it with the school. We do for our share of it, and we budgeted for that in the town budget. But there's having a line run from having a fiber run from the school to the town would give us basically unlimited bandwidth and make it much more practical to be able to share with businesses. Doing it the way we're doing it now and sharing the bandwidth with the school does give us some limitations in the bandwidth. And so it'd be better to be able to eventually run the line and give us that more bandwidth and be able to share it. So
Absolutely. Well, and in the whole long-term picture of bringing fiber to everyone,
right, exactly.
should start with getting it to the town hall. So, baby steps of that, of the bigger picture too, I think. So keep an eye on it. Keep working.
Yeah.
If it's a 14-month wait, maybe we should start asking now.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. All right, thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jay. Anyone
Thanks,
else have
Jay.
anything on Wi-Fi? No? Okay. So real quickly, I'll just go over the state's numbers. We've been, knock wood, very fortunate. I think the governor's made all the right moves throughout this thing. Currently, you look at places, unfortunately, everything around us seems to be collapsing. You look at places like Texas and Florida that are adding 10,000 cases a day. The state of Connecticut has only added 162 cases since last Friday. So I think that's very impressive. Litchfield County currently, this is as of this morning, has 0 COVID hospitalizations.
Wow.
So that's all very encouraging. Relative to our town, we're continuing to see really good numbers. We've only had 1 new case in the last 2 months, and that was quite a while ago. So we're very fortunate there. Many of our organizations, Judy Black Park, the Farmers Market, Drive-In Movie Night, have all gone off with protocols in place, and they've been very successful. I've attended all. 5 Senses will be coming up at the end of the month, and they've got a host of very comprehensive protocols in place. So we're continuing to sort of get back to a somewhat normalcy, but with these new protocols in place. Long-term Recovery Committee continues to meet every week or so. We're doing outreach to the residences, the business, the nonprofits, and our goal is to cover any unmet needs. Currently, we're getting great feedback on a hard copy mailer we sent out from residents, sort of a survey. So we'll be working on putting the results of that together and have something by the end of the week. Probably
Did that go to everyone?
it did.
I don't remember getting it.
Yeah, that was a town-wide. That went to every zip code.
I got a letter, Jim. I didn't get it. Was there a survey as part of that?
Yeah, the letter, in order to save paper, was here, and the survey on the back. And we did
Okay.
have calls. Some people did toss it after they read it, but they didn't see the survey.
I don't think I got the letter, but that's just, a little mail mix-up thing. So I'll get a copy when I stop in next.
Sure. Probably the biggest thing on the horizon right now is getting the schools reopened. I spoke with Megan Bennett this week. Obviously, she's got her hands full. There's a lot going on there. The private schools, we're meeting at the end of next week to go over what their plans are and how everything conforms with state guidelines. So I'll have more information on that and maybe put it in a townwide update.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
But that's essentially all I have for updates. If anybody has any questions?
What is the latest word on the schools?
Right now, for example, Region 12 is putting together three different scenarios for the state to review. One is a complete return to in-person learning. One is all virtual, and one is a hybrid of virtual and in-person, Dan.
Okay. And is it your sense that this would be resolved in time for Labor Day so that you could open?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, my sense is early August, Region 12 will have everything put together, Dan.
Got it. Thank you.
And Jim, just going back to the private schools, because those will be kids coming into town. I know you said you're meeting with them at the end of the week. Do you have a sense of whether they plan to open in the fall with kids back?
Yeah,
kids?
They do, Jay.
Okay.
You know, they face a couple of hurdles. I mean, our country now is the leading nation in terms of infectious rate. A lot of families are not going to send international students here.
Yeah.
So they're almost forced into a hybrid situation of virtual, and they have the added complication of boarding. A lot of their kids are boarders. So you couple the international situation with people not sending their children here, and then combine that with the fact that there's 31 states that currently we have travel restrictions on.
Yeah.
They've got some really big hurdles, and I really empathize with what they're going through.
No, I totally agree. I was just wondering if your sense is, though, that they're trying to make plans like Region 12 to get kids back to school one way or another come the fall.
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Jay.
great. Yep.
Hey, Jim.
Yes, Valerie.
Do we have a sense for how many new students we're going to have in town this year?
That's a good question. I don't on the public level. I do know that currently the gunnery is at or near their capacity for expected students in the fall.
And Valerie, I did talk to Megan. She didn't give me a number, but I know they've had a significant number of additional students enrolled from New York, for families that have moved up here from New York, from the New York area, in all three towns actually. But I don't know the number.
And Montessori indicated that.
Getting a lot of students as well. Montessori school.
Okay, cool.
We wanted to get new students, but we didn't want to do it by the coronavirus. But
that's for sure.
Next on the agenda is Give It Forward. Julie?
Oh. Can't hear you, Julie.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, we can, Julie. Go ahead.
Okay. So Gift It Forward is live. It launched a few weeks ago. We have put up the lawn signs and banners over town. We need to start our social media launch, which we can ideally start this week. So Dan will reach out to Julia as well as Liz about the WBA. But we're up and running. Michelle and Val have been helping with making sure the payments get out to the merchants. So we'll just start pushing it now on social media. Jim, just one request. If we can continue to promote it in the weekly newsletter, because we definitely see a bump every time it gets promoted there.
Absolutely, Julie. If you send it to Jeff, we'll get it in every week.
Okay.
And can you give us an indication, Julie, by whatever metric you are using as to how we're doing?
So
like
it's
how many or how much or something like that?
Yeah, so Dan, again, without the social media, just sort of soft launching it, we've had 120 visitors to the site. We've had 5 completed orders, 2 for 9 Main, 1 for Hickory Stick, 1 for the pantry, and 1 for Washington Market.
Yep.
Most of them are actually thank you gifts. So we get to see the notes that come in. So most of them are thank you gifts for somebody that's done something for somebody else.
Yep.
We did have one birthday gift, and we had one go to a local organization, so a food bank.
Yeah, okay.
Any questions on that for Julie? So we'll go to affordable housing. Michelle.
Yeah, I'm not muted. So stop me at any point if you want to stop me, because I don't know exactly how much information Dan wanted, but just a quick overview. In 2017, the legislature passed a law saying that every town had to have an affordable housing plan by the spring of 2021. And most towns do not have an affordable housing plan. If you look in our plan of conservation and development, it's affordable housing is mentioned briefly, but it doesn't have its own section. It doesn't have a lot of data around it. It's not very well developed. So it's definitely a hole there. The Department of Housing offered a grant in order to help towns develop their affordable housing plan. And with the help of Jocelyn at the Northwest Hills COG, Jocelyn Air, she helped put together the grant request, and we were awarded a grant along with 9 other towns up in the northwest corner that all participate in the COG. Basically the same grant request. The grant is for $13,850, and in the grant it includes money for data collection, meetings with local housing committees, mapping, community engagement, printing and publication. So a whole list of development breakout there. The data collection part of it was costed out as a group, with the Northwest Hills working together, having the COG do a lot of the data collection so that we could achieve a savings there. So if we choose to do something different, we might have to reconfigure the proposal, what the proposal was, but that's all right. That's our prerogative. The state engaged, let's see, what's her name, Melissa, I don't know, a firm to put together a handbook to help towns put this together. COVID got that delayed, but it is in process, so hopefully that will be online soon. A couple other things. Salisbury had put theirs together, published it in 2018, and it is online on their website, and it's very well done. I've read through that. They did a really nice job. So it's a good example of what an affordable housing plan could look like for a community that's relatively similar to ours. The next steps for this would be to put together the group that is going to work on this. Oh, and they had an information session about the grant proposal, and it was really great. There were a lot of representatives from Washington. We had both Dan and Tony were there, as well as myself. Wayne was there in planning. Ted Bent, who is on the Housing Trust, was there. Leslie Anderson was there from the Housing Commission. So I think Washington probably had more people on that call than anybody else. So that was really encouraging. And so I don't know whether Leslie reached out to you, Jim, about putting together the committee, but I know everyone was sort of in agreement that we would like to make sure that planning and zoning and the Housing Trust and the Housing Commission and the selectmen, all the different parts of the government are that have not just a stake, but an ability to make things happen, would be involved in the development of the plan. Because the plan is really, especially I think Salisbury did a great job. It's more than just looking at what we have, but it's also planning how to make movement towards the goal, goals. The state, as we all know, says if 10% of affordable housing is kind of that's what you need in order to protect yourself from the developers being able to work around your zoning laws for affordable housing. I don't know that that's a stated goal, but 10% is kind of what's thrown around. Washington has 2% or 2.4, I think, in 2018. So we're definitely short of that mark. So Salisbury, when they were looking at their goals, realized that they wouldn't be able to achieve 10% in a 5-year or 10-year horizon, but they started planning steps towards that. And I thought that was a smart thing to do. But anyway, that's a discussion that the committee will have once they have the data, and we'll look at the needs. So that's sort of a lot in a nutshell. Did you have other questions?
Michelle, Mike Jackson, do you have a copy of the Salisbury report?
It's online. If you go to their
Online?
website. Yep. I can also, I've got a PDF on my computer I can email to you, but it's probably easiest if you just go to the town of Salisbury. And I forget how many tabs in, but it was, I didn't have a hard time finding it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next steps, Michelle, are you looking to get a committee approved to start working on the plan? Is that that's the next steps?
That was sort of the agreed next step.
No, that makes sense to me.
I mean, I don't know who's in charge of putting that committee together. I would turn to Jim for that, but.
That would be the three of us, yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
So
I think it's probably the Housing Commission.
Yeah, so the
I think that's who we would go to, Wayne, I agree, but I think the board would do the appointment, if I'm not mistaken. But what's the timeline, Michelle, for getting the plan developed? That's what I was wondering. What's the timeline?
The due date is spring of 21, so that's a year from now. The handbook on how to do it isn't done. We can talk to Jocelyn, because all 9 towns, I can tell, it's Goshen, Morris, Warren, Cornwall, Norfolk, Barkhamsted, they all got the same grant. It was just awarded a couple weeks ago. So, you know, we can probably work on the data collection in a coordinated way with the other towns.
Yeah.
And then Jocelyn said that they would be willing to help facilitate, you know, however much help we wanted. So I think that would be a good place to start. Thankfully, also Jocelyn is on the Affordable Housing Committee in Salisbury. So she was part of putting together their plan, so she's experienced it. Plus she's helping coordinate all these other towns. So she's got a wealth of knowledge. I will say that the Housing Commission was interested in working on this. So that's exciting to me. They met in June, and it looks kind of like they maybe meet every 2 months, but I'm not sure. And I couldn't find a posted when they meet again. I don't want to step on toes. I think, you know, the selectmen should work with the Housing Commission to, you know, figure out how to move forward, and then make sure we involve the other commissions as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think Michelle, and I'll double check the email, I think Jocelyn had offered, or the COG had offered, they've got funding in their budget to do the actual data collection for the grant recipient towns.
I think that's part of the grant that we got. So the data collection, market study analysis, she budgeted $1,000 of this grant of the 13,000. And I think it's only 1,000 because they're pooling 1,000 from the 9 towns.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what she was talking about. She said you can opt out if you want, but that was the most economical way to do
Makes
that.
sense. So, all right, great. Thank you, Michelle.
Any other questions for Michelle on? Thanks, Michelle. Economic and Community Coordinator, Dan.
As most of you are aware, the Plan of Conservation and Development that was put together in 2014 called for us bringing in an economic development director. Tony and I, over the last 4 or 5 years, have made a valiant effort at demonstrating to the community that they can, that a coordinator or a director might very well be able to add significantly to the economic and social well-being of the town. With the support of the selectmen, there was a move forward with this by funding a position for an economic and community development coordinator. Notice the choice of the word coordinator in contrast to the choice of the word director. The fundamental difference being that the focus for Washington would be on the well-being of the community, less of a focus than it might be true of other municipalities, less so on actually filling empty stores. Now, what we then did was we then spent a fair amount of time putting together if you will, a position description. I might just point out that the focus of most of that effort was was not on economics, but on community fabric, and advance the social well-being of the town of Washington. We got to a point where we posted the position. The position was posted probably 3-4 weeks ago. It was in the newspaper, The Voices, and in addition, it was posted on the town website. We had, note the choice of these words, 2.5 people post for the job.
What's a half a person look like?
I'll explain it in a moment here, Michael. Okay, because I think that we as a committee need to figure out how we're going to deal with this. Okay, but in any event, we got an on-time posting from someone from Washington. We got an on-time posting from someone from Middlebury. Okay, both of them showing quite a bit of talent. And therefore putting us into a position where we could then step off and begin to make a choice and begin to integrate that position into the ongoing operation of the town. The half person to which I refer is someone who is known to you, and I'm not going to name names, but someone who came late to the game with the idea being that if they had known, they would have. So the half that I referred to is their email. The other half that I referred to is, sorry, you're late. Okay. Now, the reason that I bring it up is that a committee, when it was formed, didn't really consider this as a likely issue. The committee is made up essentially of Jim. It's made up of Jeff Hammond, Lisa, Wayne, and I'm on it as well. And the fundamental idea here was that within a relatively short period of time, we would be able to make a decision and move this forward, so that we got off to a sharp start with the 2021 fiscal year. With this request from someone who was late to the game, okay, one of the things that the committee should make a decision about is, do they want to open it up to submissions going forward, or do we just want to indicate to this person, sorry you missed it? And but that's really a side issue. The next step in this process is to get the committee of 5 together, review the credentials of the 2 that posted on time, and then make a decision as to whether or not we want to recommend a candidate to the Board of Selectmen. This particular position reports to the Board of Selectmen, in particular to the first selectman, okay? And what we would like to do is be in a position to get that person into an active role, let's say, no later than the end of July, the early part of August. I would defer to you, Jim, at this juncture. I have not named names. I haven't gotten into any of that detail. And I would also defer to you in terms of putting the 5 of us together, and then let's kind of move it forward.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I would, relative to the one that came late, my own opinion is I don't want to compromise the integrity of the process. That's why I reached out to that individual and thanked them. I just think it's important that we keep the integrity of the process.
Okay. All right. That solves one of the issues.
And I think I can send out to the group of 5 the applications we received that are under consideration. give
Very
everybody
good.
a couple of days and schedule a time, perhaps early next week, that we can get together via Zoom and discuss it with the applicants, set up the interviews.
Sounds wonderful. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Nope,
Great.
I just I'm glad you guys are moving forward on this and getting it going. The town approved the money and I think people are anxious to have somebody on board and doing this work. And thank you to you and Tony for all the volunteer work you did to get us to this point. You guys have been tremendous on this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If there's no more on that, we'll go to the community center. Tony?
Thank you. Since our last update on the community center, we hired Slam and Malona McBroom to determine the feasibility and suitability for the property on Titus Road for the center. They have finished the first phase and have produced a report and several maps of the layout that I will share with you this morning. The purpose of this work was to meet with have enough information to meet with the various commissions and show them the preliminary layouts and have a conversation to determine any other items that they might like require, and so that we could proceed to the next phase of the various applications. So far, we presented to Inland Wetlands Commission, and after discussion, we're told that it looks good to go forward with the application phase. And that implies that we really answered all the questions that they had so far. And of course, it was a conversation and not an application. On Monday, July 27th, next Monday, we will be presenting to the Zoning Commission, ZBA, and the Planning Commission together. And after completing those presentations, we will be better informed on what the commissions will require when submitting applications. So at this point, I'd like to share 3 maps with you and do a little explanation about what's happening. Okay, this is obviously a picture of the property, and what is intended to show here are all the setback lines that are presently required by various commissions and FEMA and so forth.
Robert,
Well, this is the 50-foot rear setback line. There's the 200 upland review area from the river. And there's a thing called the Chippewa River Buffer, which is the first one was a 100-foot upland review area by the wetlands, and the other one here is the 200-foot setback for the river buffer. So that really ends up with having this space that fits all of these restrictions at this point. And this is where Titus Road is up here, and this is the driveway we're familiar with that comes in. And these gray areas are the existing mowed paths that allow you to walk around near the river. this is a little more detail. Now, the you come in from Titus Road, and there's, well, let me back up a little bit. Because this is in the floodplain, the FEMA regulations are that any structure must be a foot above the 100-year storm level. So what that means is it has to be elevated, in this particular case, 5 feet above the existing ground level. So the way this has been situated is that this building will be 5 feet above the area, existing area, and this will be a slight grade coming up to the front door that has a portico, so that you get into the building, and then down to the parking area down here. And then there's an overflow parking area in this area. Or so you can do one of two things. You can come up and drop someone off at the building, or you can come in and park and walk up to the building. The other thing is that there's what's called compensatory storage. And what that is, it amounts to is that the FEMA regulations say that for every bit of material like soil and so forth that you bring into a site, you must take out of the site. So that what happens is that the floodplain it has the same amount of capacity that it used to have. So, and if you dig holes in there, you have to also add material so that this isn't always an equal situation. So then we have, what we have here is the gray area. Again, our stone dust paths that we've been building that go around the building and come into this multi-purpose lawn area where I think we can either could set up table or something, or a place to have coffee and so on. And then we've got the path that follows the river, pretty much like the one we have. Let's see. There'll be a pergola down here. There'll be along the path, there'll be a place where you can sit for a moment to catch your breath or look at the river. So let's see. There's going to be a terrace in the back so that everything, all of the exit and entrances will be level with the ground around it, so we don't have to have ADA ramps to accommodate wheelchairs into the operation. No trees will be cut in the whole property to get this done, and all the water that will be collected from around the roof drains, the footing drains, and all the impervious areas that are covered will drain into these two compensatory storage areas. These will be, I'll show you in the next slide, they'll be, what they amount to is what we call rain gardens. It'll have vegetation in them, flowers, whatever, usual stuff, usual items that grow in those areas. Let's see. I think that pretty much covers what we were talking about. Yeah. Are there any questions on, oh, wait a minute.
Tony, Mike Jackson, when do you think you'd have a cost estimate for this?
It would probably be either the next phase or the phase after that. I mean, we
Okay.
haven't started, we've got some rough ideas what we think we might want for a building, but we haven't gone over that at all in detail. The reason we didn't spend any money on that sort of thing was that if we didn't get all the approvals from the commissions, it wouldn't be worth going ahead. So we spent as
Yeah.
little as we thought we could,
Yeah.
and we still have enough information to go to the commissions.
Okay. Thank you.
These are the compensatory areas that will be what will end up being rain gardens, but they'll be vegetated, so it won't be a place where it would be a bare earth or anything. The septic system will be down under that lawn area. All of those things that will be decided. The size of them and so forth would be decided when we finally have figured out what the building is and how many people may be housed in it and so on. So that's pretty much, I think, covers what we're talking about. Are there any questions?
Yeah, it's Wayne here, Tony. I have a couple questions too about cost, and I'm not going to hold anyone to anything at this point, but I mean, that's a pretty substantial sized lot there that we're looking for a proposed building. I know that we had spoken previously about perhaps raising most, if not all, of the funding for the building of this center privately. But has there been any discussion or any thought about, once a building like this would be built on this site, how we would pay for running it on an ongoing basis? Because, I mean, just looking at this or anything similar to this is a dramatic increase in the level of service that we would be providing to the community. And I mean, just, to cut to the chase, it's like, a part-time municipal agent to the elderly is not going to be able to run a facility like this. And I was just wondering if we've, as the chair of planning, I'm charged with looking out 5-10 years ahead. And, if we build this and people come, which I think they will, how are we going to run an operation like this? Are we going to create a line item in the municipal budget? I mean, just need to know.
Well, number one, we haven't any idea at this point what those numbers would be, but how it would be, how the ongoing yearly cost would be is something I can't answer. I think that would probably be decided by the Board of Selectmen rather than us guessing at it. I mean, that's pretty far down the road. We have to design a building and hopefully, not hopefully, but we will be designing it so that it's efficient as possible and so forth. But there will be maintenance, obviously, and there'll have to be someone taking care of it. So I don't know what those numbers are at this point.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
Wayne, so part of the goal, I started back in January, I suppose, when we really dug into this thing and met with some people that made a lifetime out of raising funds with intimate knowledge of the town of Washington. And our goal from the beginning, no matter where the cost of building this settles, is in addition to raise enough for an endowment to go towards the running of the center year after year. Now, with that said, the town definitely will have some skin in the game and it will be a line item in the budget, but we want to minimize it as best we can through private funds.
I would also just throw in there that we do currently have a senior center director who that's already a line item, who would be moving over. There are positions, I mean, there's some ways we could reorganize some of what we already have or fill out some part-time. We have a part-time Parks and Rec person that, you know, some of those activities might happen in this community center. So there's definitely some ways we can look at first what we already are budgeting for, and then if there's more need, that's a great thing. That means that there was a need, an unmet need, and we'll look at making those positions either from part-time to full-time or hiring somebody to direct.
Okay, I'm fine with all of that. I just you know, I'm just thinking ahead to you know, when the planning commission starts drafting the 2023 plan, and you know, we're going to have to take a position on this as to whether and how this is, you know, how this is funded, and you know, on the long term. I just kind of need to get my head wrapped around where we're going to be headed is all.
Hopefully by
Understandable.
then we'll have a lot of those answers in place. It won't be, hopefully it will not be theoretical at that point.
Fair enough.
Jim, are there any other comments you'd like to make on this?
The only thing, and I don't know if you covered it, Tony, was that the next step after we work this through land use on the informal basis is to, and I'm not sure how this is going to happen, but convene another informational meeting for residents, and whether that's, you know, via Zoom, in person with limitations and protocols, or a hybrid of is yet to be determined. But that's our next goal, is to bring something that's further coalesced back to the town based on what we got from the January meeting.
Well, for us, the next step will also be that you get the two companies to generate applications so that we can go to the commissions and get permits for this sort of thing. We wouldn't be going forward with any building or earth removal until we've had the community conversation.
Absolutely.
But, you know, going through the applications is going to take some amount of time and effort. So that's our next step.
Tony, could you just quickly review this notion that you already have in place with inland wetlands? As my understanding is, next Monday, we're going to have a meeting in which planning will be there. Wayne will be there, right, Wayne?
Yes.
Okay. And you're also going to have zoning, and you're going to have zoning board of appeals. So
Yeah.
there's a fair amount of this learning that we're going to go through. Then, as I understand it, Jim, we would have a Zoom meeting with the town at large, so that we would be in a position where we have clarity on what the community wants, and at the same time we have an understanding of what we need to do in order to make sure we're in alignment with all of the regs. Then we could step off into beginning to put together an architectural plan. Is that a fair representation of what we have to do in the, let's say, the next 3 or 4 major meetings?
I would agree with that, Dan. It's absolutely critical that, again, we take what we learned from the initial January meeting back to the community somehow.
Yes.
To refine, fine tune, garner feedback.
Right.
I know it's probably going to come up again, is, you know, we all knew that second to the center itself was thoughts of a dog park and things of that nature. So those are just some of the things that swirl in my mind that I want to hear from people on.
Now, Tony, is it possible that we could be making a request for design, architecture, and maybe, to Michael's question, preliminary costs, not operating costs, just construction costs, by the end of the year?
By the end of the year, yeah, I would hope so, yeah. You know, it's dependent, I think how far we go forward is dependent on what the approval of the commissions, and if there are any conditions imposed on it. And as Jim has said, whatever comes out of the community meeting.
Yeah.
I think the community meeting will probably give us a better idea of what the community expects to have in that sort of a facility. And
Right.
that will go a long ways to determine the
Right.
costs and so forth.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that the process we've been through so far is really for the feasibility of the
Right.
site. And
Yeah.
once that is completed, we need to have that community conversation so that we are all in agreement, or we have a better understanding of what the community wants inside the building programming. So that'll be more of a programming conversation, and that's what's needed for the next phase of the architectural design. Right now, we did some rough programming discussions just to get a footprint to make sure that we were talking about what we think the community wanted, but there's plenty of room. There's room for tweaking that. So the next community conversation will, assuming we've got sort of the go-ahead from all the commissions on the site, the next conversation will be more about what do you want in it, and then we can talk about design and architectural drawings and the costs.
Yeah, I would interject here in terms of the commissions at this point. Your real issue is going to be, if there are issues, it's going to really be with the zoning commission or ZBA, because wetlands has already, they have a limited scope of what they consider, and I think that this plan has addressed any concerns, immediate concerns they would have. The planning commission really would have a limited role in this. There's no subdivision being proposed here, so we wouldn't be ruling on that. And the only thing that would be required of planning is essentially an 8-24 referral, mainly because this is town property. And the test for that is whether or not what is being proposed is consistent with the plan. And I think you could give the plan to a first grader and they would find this consistent with the plan. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with planning.
Great.
Yeah, Wayne, I think you're absolutely right. We're not going to be passing go and directly to ZBA. I think it's just zoning's not going to have a whole lot to do with it.
Well, yeah, well, in terms of planning, I mean, this was a specific ask in the POCD, so I don't think you're going to get any objections conceptually from the planning commission.
Anybody else have any questions or
I
comments?
got one. Has there been a sort of basic demographic study of the senior population of the town and what it's going to do over the next 10 or 15 years?
All numbers might point to more.
Well, I'd like to see the plan or the analysis so that we know where we are when you get to the point where you start to evaluate the costs. So it's
Yeah, Michael, this is Wayne. My three presentations of Washington by the numbers, if you still have those, part one dealt with demographics and how demographics of the community. And
great.
You can find, there is ample information there showing what's going to happen to the median age of the population. And I think it will make the case for this in no short order.
I'm not saying that there isn't a case made. I just want to make sure that we have the data when you start to do the financial analysis.
Yeah, well, in terms of demographic data, we've got everything we need.
Yep.
Okay.
Anybody have any other?
Could you email me a copy, Wayne?
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Before we wrap up, there's two things I wanted to check. There's someone on, it's a phone that says Christopher's iPhone, and I just want to get that for the minutes, whoever that is. I'll unmute you. Can't. Anybody know who that is?
No.
Okay.
Jim, that's me. I have my laptop and my phone, both.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
And I just want, Phil, are you still with us? Okay. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Michael, second. I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor to adjourn? Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Jim.